This is an article from The Guardian from a couple days ago titled "Systems Are Crumbling, but Daily Life Continues. The Dissonance is Real." I think this is one of the biggest things we're all feeling and experiencing, which is that we see systems collapsing around us. We know that stuff is bad. We know that our future is uncertain, and yet we just keep doing all the normal stuff, and all the normal stuff keeps happening. How do we describe this? Obviously, hypernormalization helps here. First articulated in 2005 by scholar Alexei Yurchak to describe the civilian experience in Soviet Russia. Hypernormalization describes life in a society where two main things are happening. The first is people seeing that governing systems and institutions are broken. The second is that for reasons including a lack of effective leadership and an inability to imagine how to disrupt the status quo, people carry on with their lives as normal despite systemic dysfunction, give or take a heavy load of fear, dread, denial, and disassociation. I'll give you a minor example of what this feels like. Earlier this year, when there was wildfires in Southern California, there was a point at which we didn't know if the air was okay outside. My wife and I weren't sure if we should take our kid someplace else. New fires were popping up. The air looked really scary. The air quality was horrible. What do we do? But then I just had to keep working. But I also just felt like, how the fuck am I going to sit here and try to make a YouTube video about God knows what while the sky looks horrifying outside? My wife's freaking out about if our kid can breathe the friggin' air. Half the city's power is out. Felt like a time at which should we still be making content now? Should we still be working? And I think that's sort of this experience of hyper-normalization. What you are feeling is the disconnect between seeing that systems are failing, that things aren't working, and yet the institutions and the people in power just are ignoring it and pretending everything is going to go on the way it has. And this article goes on to say the increasing instability of the US's democratic norms has prompted these references. I like this little graphic that they use in the article because it's someone walking their dog as the hills burn behind them and it seems like there's a wildfire in the distance. That's truly what it feels like. The world is burning and we're just walking our dogs and stuff. So to put it in broader terms, it's we have these constant series of existential crises. There's constantly stuff going on in the world that's making us feel bad, like stuff isn't working. We're seeing the seams in the fabric. We're seeing the crack in the curtain. And yet we're being told pay no attention. Pay no attention to what's happening back there. And I'm sure some of you have had this feeling as well, where stuff is going on, but you don't want to talk about it. Or a friend might say to you, did you see the news story out of Gaza today? And you feel bad for saying this, but you're I kind of can't right now. The existential weight of the thing is a lot to deal with. It's the visceral sense of waking up in an alternate timeline with a deep bodily knowing that something isn't right, but having no clear idea how to fix it. It's reading an article about childhood hunger and genocide, only to scroll down to a carefree listicle highlighting the best dressed celebrities or a whimsical quiz about what Pop-Tart are you? I think I'd be the black cherry one. So why the concept is useful, this article says, witnessing large-scale systems slowly unravel in real time can be profoundly surreal and frightening. The hypernormalization framework offers a way to understand what we're feeling and why. And I think this is important because you might say, if we can't do anything, who cares? But it's sort of you might have had this experience before. I'll be vulnerable for a second. I had a period where I was talking to my therapist. I was expressing some emotion, talking about some things in my life that were feeling hard. And my therapist was like, hey, dog. She does not talk like that, but she was like, hey, yo, dog, you ever been tested for ADHD? And I said, girl, please. Again, I do not talk like that to my therapist. I respect her very much. It initiated a process by which I did some of the testings. But at the end of that process, I was told, hey, man, you got some stuff in the old cerebral cortex or the prefrontal. That's a little más o menos. And finding out that I had ADHD, it didn't fix that experience, but naming the thing and understanding what was happening makes the experience better, such that I have days in my life and experiences in my life where, and I'll be really vulnerable with you guys right now. The thing that initiated the conversation with my therapist that led to the process of me getting diagnosed with ADHD was telling her that I used to write emails to myself. It would be you lazy shit. Tomorrow you have to do stuff. You're being so lazy. You're not getting anything done. Not understanding what was going on led to me lashing out at myself. And I think sometimes when we don't understand the reasons for things, it leads to aggression or anger or fear or anxiety. And I think that can happen with the hyper-normalization thing. Simply naming the thing at least helps us understand that it's not a problem happening in our head. It's not some crazy thing that we can't understand, that there's a framework that makes sense of the current political and cultural situation by which you're not wrong, your brain isn't broken, the world is a little effed up, okay? So it says that this person created her video to reassure others they're not alone. Understanding hypernormalization made me feel less isolated. It's difficult to act when you're uncertain if you're perceiving reality clearly, but once you know the truth, you can channel that clarity into meaningful action and ideally drive positive change. Because again, to use the ADHD example, once you know you have the thing, it might be baby steps, but you can do something. And I think here this point is clutch, that once you know the thing, you can channel that into meaningful action and ideally drive positive change. Naming an experience can be a form of psychological relief. The worst thing in the world is to feel that you're the only one that feels that way and that you are going quietly mad and everyone else is in denial, says Caroline Hickman, a psychotherapist at the University of Bath. It terrifies people. It traumatizes people. People will feel the wrongness of current conditions, acutely maybe experiencing some depression and anxiety, but those feelings can be quite rational, not a symptom of poor mental health, alarmism, or a lack of proper perspective. This is crucial. This is really crucial right here. When people have an experience of the world and an experience of the world where they're feeling kind of bad about stuff and they experience depression and anxiety, those are not symptoms of poor mental health. They're not symptoms that something is wrong with you. They're rational responses to an irrational world. That's what I get into in the recent video on depression, capitalism, and mental health. Article goes on to say that what we are really scared of is that people in power have not got our back and don't give a shit about whether we survive or not. Really good images in this one. Again, look at these two. They're having dinner. They're having a nice time. They're talking about promotions at work. They want to have a kid. They don't want to have a kid. I don't know. I don't want to give up my independence, but hey, whatever you want to do, sweetie, it's your body. Well, I want you to be a part of this discussion. How do you like the vinaigrette? Oh, it's good. What's the secret? I put nutritional yeast. You put nutritional yeast? There was something cheesy about it. I know, but you're lactose intolerant, so I use it. But the house is crumbling around them. That's what it feels like. So how to overcome it? Progressive commentators have urgently called for moral clarity and mobilization in response to changes like the cuts to U.S. aid funding, which has resulted in an estimated 103 deaths per hour across the globe, the dismantling of the CDC, and Robert F. Kennedy's campaign against vaccine science. Guys, I'll say it. I might get canceled for this, but I'll say it. Maybe RFK Jr. is bad. Where is the outrage? Asked the nation's Greg Gonsalves. Too many lives are at stake to rest in this bizarre moment of frozen agitation. Don't know if there's a massive shift towards racism as much as an expanded indifference towards it, the historian Robin D.G. Kelly said in a February interview. People are just kind of like, well, what can we do? That's a real feeling. But experts say that action can break the spell. One person here, this says Greguski and a coworker have been helping distribute multilingual information about legal rights and helpline numbers to be used in the event of ICE raids. That's great. That's a great thing to do. It's easy to feel like, oh, I'm in community because I'm on TikTok. But genuine community is about getting outside and talking to your neighbor and knowing that there's someone out there that can help you if something really bad goes down. A thing that would be cool if we can do, if you're doing stuff in the world, leave a comment about it or shoot me an email and we can talk about it on the show. Because I think that sometimes what happens is that we need to hear stories of people like us in our community doing things to get ideas for what we might be able to do. So if y'all are finding ways to fight against the feeling of hypernormalization in the current political climate, share it in the chat now, put it in a comment later, shoot me an email, I'll talk about it on the show. If you're on Patreon, share it over there and figure it out. Person says you're actually out there talking to people, working with people, and realizing there's so many good people in the world. And that's true too. We can just, when we just sit around all day and consume content about the worst people in the world, we can forget that that's not most people. But this person says we also need a broader vision, and they suggest looking into resistance efforts against authoritarianism in countries like Turkey, Hungary, and India. How might we be in international solidarity? We are in a period now where it's absolutely essential to protest. She cites the Harvard professor Erica Chenoweth, who argues that just 3.5% of a population engaging in peaceful protest can hold back authoritarian movements. What makes this function so dangerous? So we might simply learn to live with it. But understanding hypernormalization gives us language and permission to recognize when systems are failing and clarifies the risk of not taking action when we can. In 2014, Ursula Le Guin accepted the National Book Foundation's Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters, saying, "We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. So did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art, and very often in our art, the art of words." And I really like this. I really like this line. Harfouche reflects on this quote often and underscores the fact that this world we've created is ultimately a choice. It doesn't have to be like this. This world we've created is ultimately a choice. It doesn't have to be like this. I really like that quote because, again, we have a level of political will we might not even realize. We have the ability to make decisions individually and collectively to change stuff, and that can feel really overwhelming. But you've heard me say this quote before. Soren Kierkegaard writes that that decision is the magic word that existence respects, and I think that is really, really important. I really liked that. So yeah, I would recommend, I'll post a link to this if you guys want to read this for yourself. But again, not stuff that you all don't already know, but I think good stuff to keep in mind right now.